Okay, here we go. It's time for Stud Stories once again. We've got the stud. All we need is the story. And now, the Tennessee stud, Ron Fuller. Hey, Ron, what's the story?
Well, we've got another good one, Dave. We're on number 12 here. This is stud story number 12. And obviously, I want to welcome everybody back for this stud story. And this one is about the sixth of the 11 NWA World Champions that I wrestled in my career. And this one was a close personal friend that I met about 6 months after I began wrestling as a professional in the state of Georgia. 6 months later, I was moved from Georgia to the Florida Territory in the fall of 1970. And when I got there, he was the star, man. He was the Florida heavyweight champion. He was a former tremendous amateur wrestler, and obviously the most popular wrestler in Florida during the early 70s, most of the early 70s. So today we're going to be discussing Jack Briscoe, man. And Jack won the NWA World Championship from Harley Race on July 20th, 1973, in Paul Bosch's territory. Very famous promoter in the country and a great guy in Houston, Texas. He won this championship. And it was a very unusual postponed reign as the NWA World Champion. And I just, in the last, I think, episode number 10 about Harley Race, I kind of explained how his reign was postponed a little bit by a controversial injury that Dory Jr. may have had.
Mm-hmm.
So, we're going to go into great detail today about Jack Briscoe, just as we did about Harley Race. And for those that maybe didn't listen to the Harley Race one, I highly suggest you listen to it. Harley was one of the most determined men in the history of the sport. Wow, his story is a tremendous wrestling story.
Yeah.
So Jack kind of took me under his wing when I arrived in Florida after only 6 months, basically in the ring period, and he would, over the next 3 years, mentor me as I moved up the Florida Territory cards and began to make my first appearance in St. Louis in around 1973, the home of the National Wrestling Alliance. Jack was there for me to explain what was about to happen, to give me advice, to teach me a whole lot of different things that I was going to need to know to be pretty good in the business. So he was a great champion, man. Although he had never worked as a heel before becoming NWA champion, it didn't make any difference. He was capable of doing whatever he needed to do. And I guess his greatest attribute as a champion was his tremendous knowledge of the sport as an amateur, man. And he had an impeccable record there. I mean, he only lost, and think about this, Dave, he only lost one match from the time he started wrestling in high school until he finished his college career.
Wow.
He won 3 national NCAA championships. It put him in a class with class of his own, basically. But if there's one guy that could compete with him, was another guy from Oklahoma, Danny Hodge, that had another tremendous amateur record. So, I have had 5 NWA World Championship matches with Jack Briscoe. And almost always NWA champs were heels because, it made more sense to have a heel champion because the wrestling fans going to buy the ticket to see the world title match. They want to see their favorite babyface win the championship.
Mm-hmm.
So, it was very rare to have a babyface champion, but Jack was one of those rare champions. And he'd been a top, I'd been a top heel in most of these. I worked with him in all 5 of these matches. I was a heel, basically,
right,
because when I went to Knoxville in the fall of 1974 and opened up Southeastern Wrestling, I went in there as a heel. Never been a heel before in my life, but I looked at the crew and decided, I got some guys here that are over, and and one of them was Ron Wright, who was really over. He'd never been a babyface. But I decided, let's make Ron Wright a babyface and let me be the heel. And so I was a heel in all 5 of my matches against Jack Briscoe. So, I'd been a top heel since my arrival in Knoxville. And not only my Southeastern territory, but across the state in Memphis, I was on top. I was the top heel in that territory as well during this time frame of 1975. So because Jack was a great babyface, it made sense to sometime book him against heels. And so that's what they decided to do in Memphis in that territory. And then obviously that's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to change to become a babyface just for one match. Wouldn't make much sense. So 4 of these 5 matches we had together were in the Memphis territory. Not mine, but is in the Memphis territory. And the first match I ever had with Jack Briscoe for the World Championship was on January 21st, 1975 in Louisville, Kentucky. And I didn't work Louisville on a regular basis. I lived in Knoxville. I had my own territory. I was going over and working Mondays in Memphis, but Tuesday Louisville ran, and occasionally, once I got to be a strong heel there, they wanted me to work some in Louisville because they wanted to take advantage of the fact I was on that TV. Every time I was on Memphis TV, it got bicycled the next week to Louisville. So I went over there, and I didn't work there on a regular basis. So I put Jack over this first match right in the middle of the ring, man, because I wanted him to be a stronger baby face and a stronger champion when he went back. So I wasn't going to be there a lot. Didn't make sense for me to look good. Didn't make sense for us to wrestle for an entire hour. So Jack beat me pretty strongly in that match in Louisville. But I was very much more over in Memphis. So 3 of the 5 NWA title matches I had with Jack Briscoe was in Memphis, Tennessee.
Right.
2 of them in April of 1975, and 1 of them the next month in May. 2 of them were 1-hour time limit draws. The last one against him was on May 2nd, 1975. And he won that because I was about to turn babyface in Memphis. I had been a heel for months and months since I went in there. So the pretty amazing figure here, man. And I got these figures just because I knew that these crowds were big, and I got these figures from a fellow in Memphis that kept up with this type of stuff, a historian about Memphis wrestling. Then these 3 matches, 2 in April and 1 in early May of 1975, we drew 31,800 fans in 3 matches.
Whoa, God. Wow.
2 sellouts of 11,300, and the last one was 9,200. And that was after I had turned babyface.
Wow. Was that one of the bigger crowds that you had been in front of, 11,000 plus?
Yeah, it was. That's what the Coliseum there would hold. And they had a big old beautiful round Coliseum, and that was the maximum they could get in there.
Did you?
And we damn near filled it up for all 3 of those matches. And I wrestled him basically 3 times in 4 weeks.
Wow. Did you have extra butterflies in a big situation like that?
Oh, well, I mean, you got really hyped up for it. And plus you're wrestling against a world champion. And you're wrestling against a guy that's really good and a guy that's a friend of yours, a guy that's going to make you look good. He was going to make me look good because we had a long-term relationship when I was really young and starting out in Florida. And he had mentored me. And, I think he probably felt really good about the wrestler I had become. And so, we had great matches. These matches were great. And as I said, 2 out of the 3 ended up in 60-minute time limit matches. When you wrestle an hour with a guy like Jack Briscoe, wow, those fans, they get to see something that's really, truly unbelievable. And that's why they came back. The two sellouts were because there were draws. There was no winner.
Yeah.
So the last of the 5 of these matches that I had against Jack Briscoe was in my home in Knoxville. And it was only the second time when we wrestled that we had ever ran in the Coliseum. Okay. And it was Jack's going to be his only time ever he was going to be in Southeastern, ever. So obviously our matches together were very good, judging from the Memphis crowds alone, But in Knoxville, what he did for me, it was just amazing. He put me over strong. Wow, because of our relationship. And it just proved that we had a great relationship between the two of us. And it also proved his commitment, man, to help me get my territory off the ground.
Wow.
He realized that, Ron, you're a young guy and this is your first territory, and I want to make you look great in this match, So again, I was a heel. I was a heel still in Knoxville. I would be a heel until the summer of 75 for a few more months. So the finish to this one, man, was the hottest of any of the 5 matches, obviously. And it really put the maximum heat on me, man. I actually beat the world champion. I used an object from my tights into the match, pulled something out, and I knocked him out. And I covered him, and the referee counted him out. 1, 2, 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now, because I'm a heel and he's a baby face, the crowd went totally silent. They had just witnessed a heel beat the world champion.
Wow. Yeah.
It's like, well, what are they going to do, right? They're not going to cheer,
Yeah.
So, so I took the object that I'd hit him with, and once I hit him, I shoved it underneath my left armpit. I pulled my arm down close so that I could keep it hidden, and I covered him. And after the 3 count, well, gosh, of course, I jumped up like a maniac on my feet, and I kept that left arm held in there close to my body, so I could keep the object hidden from the referee. And the referee, then he rang the bell, man. He raised my right hand. And Jack Briscoe's laying there still unconscious. And I'm jumping all around. Wow, this is and then the crowd, they went from silent to boos, man. The Coliseum erupted in boos, man. They realized that I was the next world champion. They're like, oh, geez, no. So, so guess who's in the back, man, that had been involved with me for 6 months. We'd been in the program since basically I got there.
Mm-hmm.
Was old Ron Wright.
Uh-huh.
He's watching this. So he comes down to the ring. And, the referee, man, he's got my hand raised, and he goes over and he gets the 10 pounds of gold. And he hands me the belt. And, and gosh, once I get the belt in my hand, and Jack Briscoe still laying on his back in the middle of the ring, I'm celebrating like crazy, man. And I've received the belt that pretty much signifies I am the new world champion, right?
Right.
So, Wright jumps in the ring and he goes to the referee and he starts trying to explain to him that, hey, check under his left arm. 'Cause I'm still got my left arm to my body like it's broke or something.
Oh, God.
I'm still hiding my gimmick, So the crowd was screaming so loud that they're standing face to face, just inches apart, and the referee can't hear anything he's screaming at him, right? He can't even hear what he's saying to him, right? So in the meantime, while they're face to face and Wright's trying to tell on me, I'm still parading around the ring, got the belt over my head, man, holding it with the right hand, the left arm still by my side. So Ron Wright sneaks up behind me while I'm celebrating, and I'm paying attention to where he is, and he jerks my left arm up.
Uh-oh. Oh, my God. There goes the dream, Ron. Oh, no.
Boy, and there it went. It fell down there. Boom, boom.
Oh, my God.
I'm like, oh, man, you son of a wow, as soon as that thing fell out, the crowd exploded again, man. But this time it was cheers, man. It was like, oh, boy, look at this. So the referee picked it up and he looked at it and he reached over there and he signaled the timekeeper, ring the bell, right? And he rang the bell again. Well, I knew what the hell that meant. He's going to change the decision.
Yeah.
But I still got the belt, right?
Yeah.
So I hit the floor. He's going to change the time. He's going to change the decision. But by God, I'm taking this belt to the dressing room. So I'm the champion. So I strutted out there. Well, I kind of strutted out there. I left the ring, and I thought I was going to strut out of the Coliseum.
Mm-hmm.
But the crowd was so upset that they blocked my path.
Are you kidding?
Oh man, no, I'm not kidding, man. They were going to kill me.
Wow.
They were going to murder me, and the police, thank God, got around me, and we fought our way through the crowd to get back to that black curtain back there.
Mm.
And it was, to my knowledge, the only time that the NWA 10 pounds of gold ever left the ring in an opponent's hands.
Wow.
And in fact, Jack, a couple of days later, called me. He said, Ron, because I got my ass chewed out by Sam Muchnick, man. He says he heard about you leaving the ring with the belt.
Uh-huh.
And he says, I got told with under no circumstances is that ever going to happen again, Jack. So I guess that's probably the only time that a heel ever got to leave the ring with the championship belt, even though he didn't win it. So
what an incredible finish, Stud. So, but I got to ask, so what did it do for your future crowds after what Ron Wright had done in the finish?
Oh, well, that's a great question, but it set Southeastern on fire. I mean, it lit business up, especially when we recorded it, and the next day we showed that match back. Ron Wright went out there and showed how he cost me the world championship.
Wow.
And, then I went out and made an interview that I'm going to murder Ron Wright.
Yeah. Of course.
So, I mean, it set business on fire, man. So Jack did exactly what he wanted to do. He left me there over more than ever, and had beaten the world champion and the whole darn deal, and I got screwed out of it by a dumbass Ron Wright. So I owed a lot to Jack for having the guts to let me come up with a finish like that, and something that controversial, and saying, okay, let's do it. So it really helped to establish all of the title matches that's going to happen in Southeastern in the years to come, including that crazy one with Terry Funk that's going to be coming pretty soon afterward. And it was undoubtedly, that finish, I think, was undoubtedly the hottest finish I ever did in a world title match, except for maybe the Flair match in which Bob Armstrong turned heel on me as the referee.
Yeah.
That one was probably even hotter than the Knoxville one, but second best, I guess, is that Knoxville one.
Yeah.
So Jack Briscoe held the belt for about a year and a half, and he did lose it one time for a week in Japan, about a week. I think it was 5 days. He was there for 7 to the Giant Baba. And it was the first time that the NWA had allowed a short switch of the title like that. And it's going to happen again several times when Harley Race comes back for his second run as a world champion. He's going to do it quite a few times, but Baba gets his shot, and there was probably reasons for that. One thing, that they're half a world away. Fans probably in America are not going to hear about it. There's a lot of reasons that people thought, well, let's do it because it's Baba. And Baba also had competition in Japan. It was another Japanese wrestling organization. Baba's was involved with the NWA. NWA wanted their partnership, or their partners, their member, to be the most profitable and successful in Japan. A lot of reasons for it. But that was the first time that the NWA had ever allowed one of these short switch, I call it a short switch of the world title, to happen.
But a lot of people questioned that short switch of the NWA belt during Jack Briscoe, Harley Race, and Ric Flair's NWA championship runs. I mean, but how did you feel about it, Ron?
Well, I think it took a lot of emphasis away from the most prestigious world championship belt ever. And it had never been done before. It started with Jack Briscoe, and years later, at the end of Flair's long run as champion, I think the belt's gold and its reputation had definitely been tarnished, I guess is a good word to use for it. So Jack Briscoe lost the NWA World title to Terry Funk in Miami Beach, Florida, on December 10th, 1975. And we're going to be talking about somebody else in the next one, obviously. So want to thank everybody for listening today, and I hope everybody enjoyed this stud story. And the next NWA champion stud story going to be about that crazy Texan from Amarillo, man. One half of the only brother team ever to hold the NWA World title, Terry Funk. He's going to get his day on the next stud story.